Chris, as expected, President Trump backed out of the Iran deal this week, as he said he would. So I guess the big question is, what now?
Well, look, he talks about trying to come back to the negotiating table and negotiate a better deal, a tougher deal that includes not just what President Obama agreed to with the Iranians, but also that there wouldn't be a sunset clause. It wouldn't end in 2025. Iran would still be prevented long past then to develop a nuclear program. It would also cover ballistic missiles. It would also cover the support for radical groups, for terror groups throughout the Middle East by Iran. The idea that Iran is going to, having made this deal with the United States, now going to come back and renegotiate all over again, something that took a couple of years with President Obama, I think is highly unlikely. To me, the big question is, how tough is President Trump going to get on the Europeans? Because the Europeans say they're going to stay in this deal. The president says, well, I'm going to impose sanctions, and I'll impose sanctions not just on the Iranians, but also on any company, including European companies, that are doing business with the Iranians, and their companies doing billions of dollars of business. So how tough is the president going to get? Because if he's going to really make his sanctions work, he's not just going to punish the Iranians, he's going to have to punish the Europeans as well.
Yeah, as the president says, we'll see what happens. Now, when it comes to North Korea, 3 Americans released this week. Wonderful news. The president thanked Kim for being excellent to them. What do you make of this change of tone?
Well, look, obviously the president is excited and wants nothing to stand in the way of holding this summit, and it was a good faith gesture by Kim to release the 3 Americans before the summit. But having said that, you know, some Democrats, some critics have said, and I think there's some legitimacy to this, how much should we be praising the North Korean dictator for basically kidnapping 3 Americans and then releasing him as a bargaining chip? And to the degree that we praise him, are we putting a price on the head of other Americans and other rogue regimes around the world? You know, I think it's one of the central questions in all of this is, to the degree that the president talks about, and he said in the rally last night, you know, that he thinks that the chances for success are excellent, that this is going to be a very good meeting. To the degree that he raises expectations, it makes it harder for him to walk away from the summit if it turns out that he and Kim are on a different page when it comes to what denuclearization means. So there's a real question. The president says he isn't, but there's a real question, is he getting swept up in the summit hype?
You have to wonder, I mean, North Korea has spent decades building up this nuclear program. Is the expectation at the White House that he's going to give all of that up because the president called him Little Rocket Man and threatened more sanctions?
Well, not the threats, but the fact that he imposed sanctions. I mean, look, Kim isn't coming to this meeting because of the fact that he suddenly doesn't care about his nuclear program. He's coming because President Trump imposed this regime of what he calls maximum pressure, really did toughen the sanctions against North Korea, and got other countries, including China, the main sponsor of Korea, to close the economic spigot. Obviously, this is creating problems for Kim, creating problems in North Korea. He wants to ease the pressure. You asked, does the U.S. think, does the White House think that he's going to give up his entire program? That's what they're demanding. We had John Bolton, the president's new national security advisor, on Fox News Sunday 2 weeks ago, and I said to him exactly that. Are you going to demand that he get rid of all of his nukes, all of his nuclear infrastructure, fuel, all of his ballistic missiles before we do anything in the way of economic concessions? And he said, exactly.
All right. Senator John McCain has urged his fellow senators to reject the nomination of Gina Haspel to the CIA, to run the CIA, because he doesn't feel like she's explicit enough in her rejection of torture. Where do you think that nomination stands now?
I think she's going to get through, with the exception of McCain. And because of his illness, most people thought he wasn't going to be there to vote anyway. It looks like Rand Paul is probably going to oppose her. He says he is, again, because of her involvement in enhanced interrogation after 9/11. But Joe Manchin, one Democrat, has said that he's going to vote for this. The feeling is, the suspicion is, that several other red state Democrats up for re-election may vote for her as well. It'll be close, but my guess is she'll get 51, 52, 53 votes, and she'll be confirmed.
Now, White House aide Kelly Sadler dismissed Senator McCain's feelings on the Haspel issue, saying he's dying anyway. Is this going to be a one-day outrage from the White House, or is this going to be something more because of how so many Americans feel about John McCain?
My guess is it's going to go away. It was interesting in the hearing, or rather the briefing today. Sarah Huckabee Sanders was asked about it repeatedly. She said that this young woman has her job, is keeping her job, would not comment in any way, said that this was leaked about a staff meeting inside the White House, and she wasn't going to talk about it. It sounds like they've decided to ride out the storm. I thought it was a reprehensible comment, and I'm not sure she should have her job, but it looks like the White House has decided to keep her there.
All right. Chris, tell us what you have coming up on Fox News Sunday this weekend.
We are going to have a fascinating show. First of all, we're going to have the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, in his first interview since he returned from North Korea after another hour-long talk with Kim Jong-un, as well as being able to get the 3 American prisoners home. First question for him, what is Kim like? This is the most mysterious, most unknown leader in the world to most Westerners, and I'll be fascinated to find out what he thinks of Kim. And then we'll ask him some of the questions you asked me about what is the U.S. negotiating position going into this summit. We're also going to talk to retired Admiral Mike Mullen, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under both Presidents Bush and Obama. He has some real concerns about the summit. Like all of us, he's excited about the prospect, but he's concerned about what happens if it all falls apart. And are we then going to go back to a nuclear face-off? So we'll be talking to Mike Pompeo, first interview since his return from North Korea, and retired Admiral and former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mike Mullen, on Fox News Sunday.
I can't wait to hear from both of them. Chris, thanks very much.
You bet, Russ. Thank you.